So, good morning and welcome to another session of business research. So, in last session, I hope you remember, we had discussed a very important point, and that was about a questionnaire. Because what we do in research, we try to capture some construct, we try to capture some phenomena, some construct, some variable, and to capture that or to operationalize a particular construct, we need a questionnaire. And that questionnaire is consist of different questions. In technical terms, we call it items also. And these items, these questions may be in form of yes, no, maybe in the form of highly satisfied, dissatisfied, something like that. So what we are doing actually, we are converting a qualitative information into a quantitative information by operationalizing a construct. And you remember we discussed that on the one side there was a dark line, dark arrow, and that was actually a actual phenomena. But you remember there was a gap in between and there was another line, dot line, that was actually we observe something. So on the one side actual reality and the other side observing reality, and always there is some gap in between. As a research scholar, this is our responsibility to minimize that gap. And I hope you remember we discussed that you cannot make it zero. There would always be a chance that uh, some kind of error would be there, and you cannot rid of that particular percentage of error which is existing. That error may be that your measurement or your scale is having some problem to capture the construct, and in social science actually you cannot absolutely 100% you cannot measure or capture the construct. Second issue or problem would be when actually you collect data from the respondent, from the participant, the way you write the questions, so the way you want to make them understand, do you think the same way they understand your queries? So there may be sometime they don't understand your query, and sometime these respondents are biased respondents. So that's why, because of some limitation in social science, because here we are dealing with human being, so we cannot bring that error uh, up to zero level. So that is very difficult. So we have discussed very important thing that we are trying to measure or capture a particular construct, variables or a phenomena with the help of different questions or items. Now next level is that now we have questions or items. Next what? How do you think that questions are actually giving you some quantitative information? These questions or items actually help you to measure a construct in terms of quantitative terms. So here you can see what we need to do. We need to put some value against each and every item. That value may be yes, no. So if it is yes, no, what you need to do, you give 1 to yes, no to no to 2 or 0, something like that. But here 1 and 2 would not be, a quantitative terms, right? So that is another difficulty. But here we are giving 1 or 2 just to recognize them. So what kind of value we can put against these questions or items, that is called levels of measurement. So this is very important because you would be doing your research in future. Maybe in your MCOM you are going to make some survey, or when you are going for higher study or analytics also, you need to make sure that what kind of information you need to collect. Will it be only in terms of yes or no? If it is in terms of yes or no, then you can find a frequency only, that these many people say yes and these many people say no. can we say yes is more than no, or no is less than yes? We can't do like this, because here when we are representing yes 1 or no 2 or 0, so here these are not actually a quantitative value. These are just a number to represent something. So here 2 is not less than or more than any other value. This is just to recognize something. But here, that how many people say yes and how many people say no, that we can figure out. So that frequency cross tab we can do, but we cannot use it for some other purpose. So let us see how actually we are converting qualitative information into quantitative information. So this is very interesting, because in social science people say how you can use quantitative techniques while you have each and everything in qualitative terms. So that is beauty of social science research, that is beauty of business research, that actually we are converting qualitative information into quantitative information. Up to what extent we will be successful, that we will be learning with the help of labels of measurement. So let us see here. Stanley Smith Stevens in 1946 defined 4 levels of measurement. So how to measure a particular construct or variable? So you have 4 level of measurement, or we call it rating scales also. So these level of measurement, also called rating scales, refers to the values that an indicator or variable can take. So now you have items or indicators or questions, and these values we put against all questions, maybe in terms of yes, no, maybe in terms of best, better or good, 3 to 1, something like that, right? Or maybe a highly satisfied, highly dissatisfied kind of scale. So these all, these all are what we call them attributes. We call them, please note down. So these number, with the help of these number, we actually capturing a particular variable or a construct. So in technical term in research, we call them attributes. So here we have Stanley Smith in 1946. He defined these different way to capture a variable or construct. So we have 4 ways to capture them. For example, if you want to know demographic profile, so here you will say, are you married, are you unmarried, or divorced? So these 3 options we have. So it gave us some information about an individual. It's a status of a person. But here, look here everybody, married may be defined in terms of M, unmarried may be defined in terms of U, divorce in terms of D. But this MUD, if you put it in Excel or SPSS or in our programming, it will not give you any value. So what we need to do, we represent married with 1, unmarried with 2, and divorced with 3. So now my question to all of you, is 3 more than 2 or 2 more than 1 over here? Let me see your response. Say yes or no. Let me see everybody your response. Do you think here in this case 2 is more than or something like that, or let me see. So put remarks in your chat box everybody. So Divya say no. Thank you Divya. So Meenakshi, Shakta, Darshana, they all say, can't say, will depend on, no, only in this one, only in this I'm saying. The example I'm quoting here, Darshana, the example here, it's a married, unmarried and divorced. So can we, if we put 1 for married, 2 for unmarried and 3 for divorce. So Darshana, can you unmute your mic and can you say that here 3 is more than 2 or 2 is more than 1? No, sir. Thank you. So here actually you cannot rank them, you cannot compare them actually, right? There is no comparison. But these number 3, 2, 1, these are actually not a numerical number. Here, these are just to recognize them. Why we are using them? Because we can find out some frequency against these number. Now frequency for what purpose? Suppose you collect data from 1000 people. So out of 1000, now you have a profile of 1000 people. You can say that these many people are married, these many people are unmarried, and these many people are divorced. So, or you can generate another number that would be a percentage, that out of 1000 people, these percentage is actually divorced people, these many people are actually married, or these many unmarried as far as percentage is concerned. But you cannot go beyond that. Can you go beyond that in terms of other statistical analysis if you have this kind of data? Tell me, everybody. Meenakshi ji, can you unmute your mic? Can we use some other statistical techniques if we have this kind of information? Meenakshi, unmute your mic. Meenakshi. Shwapta Chakrabarti. Good morning. So, do you think that we can use some other tools and techniques, statistical tools and techniques beside frequency and percentage when we have this kind of information? Okay, so you might have studied statistics. So I hope you remember you used to have crosstab, you used to have frequency, right? So crosstab and frequency, or maybe a maximum bar chart diagram you can use for this. You cannot go beyond that, right? So this is basically a very low level kind of statistics, or you can say a research or a data. So generally this kind of information, let us continue our discussion. Okay, so this kind of data where we have married, unmarried, divorce, we can use this kind of information for other purpose also. For example, gender, male, female, or now in some research they say others also. So, or maybe transgender. So here we have three options: 1, 2, 3. You can give any value, maybe 1 to here in this also you can give 1 to divorce, 2 to unmarried, and 3 to married. So because it's not rank at all, this is just to give a number, just to recognize something. So in case of gender also, you can use how many males are there, how many females are there, percentage of that, or maybe maximum cross tab. You cannot go beyond that, right? So I hope when we collect demographic profile of a family, of an individual, then we use this kind of data. And what is the use of this data? We can compare a male and female. We can compare in terms of married and unmarried, right? So this kind of information, but on what basis we will be comparing them? We will be comparing them in terms of income. So income would not be of this kind of data, remember. We may compare married and unmarried, but for what purpose we are comparing married and unmarried? Or for what purpose we are comparing female and male? So that may be education you are comparing, income you are comparing, performance you are comparing. So income, education and performance would not be like this kind of information. Remember, right? So here you can see everybody. Uh, so let us continue. So I hope this is clear to all of you. First, the degree of sophistication increases when moved from nominal to ratio measurement. So this kind of information which is here in terms of gender, in terms of status of a person, whether he or she is married, unmarried or divorced, it's called nominal data, just to recognize some phenomena. Now slowly we move up and we go up to a ratio measurement. So first is nominal, then slowly we move to ordinal, then interval, and finally we reach to ratio measurement. So as we go up, you will see our data refined, and we get very refined and clear cut information and data. So whenever a construct or variable is measured, number are assigned to it in some fashion. That's very clear, right? So whatever construct you have, whatever variable you have, you need to measure it with, you have four options. First is this, we already have discussed. So we will put more light on this. So let us continue with this information. So first is nominal, which already we have discussed. This describes a difference between categories of a variable. It is also called categorical scales because the scale divides the data into categories. However, categories carry no numerical weight. So these number 3, 2, 1 or 0 you give, this is actually not a numerical number. The variables are non-overlapping. So either the person in terms of gender would be either a female or a male. They cannot overlap to each other. So you will say I am unmarried or married. You cannot be both together. So remember, this is something very interesting over here, that you cannot say like you have a scale of 5 point, highly satisfied, highly dissatisfied. In this somewhere you will see things are overlapping. But in this nominal information at all would not be mutually exclusive. They would not be overlapping, either this or this. Very simple. Now, it offers names of level for different attribute values. For example, as I mentioned earlier, in case of gender, 1 for female and 2 for male are two level of gender, right? Now in research you might have seen the other value also, 3, which is maybe other also. So remember, here indicator 2 is not more than 1, or 1 female is not less than 2 at all. They are just representing or labeling them, not more than that. Very simple thing. So whenever we start our research and you're starting with scratch, and you don't understand, you don't know whether these things are somewhere interlinked or related with each other, or is there any association between these two. So we generally go for this kind of information, just because you may not have any idea at all, and sometimes it look weird that you have two construct or two variable and you never thought that this kind of association may be there. So this kind of information will give you some kind of understanding that okay, somewhere these two variable, weird variable or construct are associated. So this is very basic level, basic kind of research with the help of nominal level of measurement. So whenever you think of conducting this, You can start with nominal label, but generally people don't prefer because you cannot go beyond cross tab, bar chart, or percentage or frequency. So few example over here you can see everybody. A religion. So you can see that in India we have different religion. People follow different religion. That is the beauty of Indian culture. And in India, what happened? Um, if you describe a person in terms of religion, so you will have a question that you belong to this religion, or this religion. So religion could be Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Sikh. So that you can describe again, that against this religion you can give a number, maybe of 1, 2, 3, 4, right? But here remember, these number are actually not a numerical number. So here 2 may not be more than 1, 3 is not more than 2. So remember, this is one something you need to remember. So here you can see the example. So can we say 4 is more than 3, or 3 is more than 2, or 2 is more than 1? So these are just to recognize, and with the help of this we can find out in our survey. Suppose we are surveying 1,000 people, how many belong to Hindu religion, how many belong to Muslim, how many belong to Christian, and how many belong to Sikh community. So it gave you that some number, that okay, or this would be a kind of frequency. With that you can use a bar chart that these many people, or maybe a percentage out of 1,000, this many percentage belong to Hindu or Muslim or Christian or Sikh. Now, as I said, it's a very basic level kind of research. So generally people, they don't want to have this kind of research because it has many limitation in terms that you cannot refine this data, refine this information with the help of statistical tools and techniques. So next, what we need to do, we need to go for ordinal level of measurement. That is the second kind of information which you need to collect from the individual or from the respondent. So this is one step ahead from nominal. In what sense? Here you will see, because in last example 2 is not more than 1, 3 is not more than 2, but here we need some information. For example, good, better, best, right? Low, medium, high. Now we know that high is more than medium and medium is more than low, but in quantitative terms we don't know what is the difference between medium and low, or high or medium. This is the difficulty, but it is showing you some kind of ranking, that some ranking is there, but in quantitative terms things are not clear to you. So low is low, but how much medium is more than low, that you don't understand, you cannot calculate it. But here you can compare in terms that you understand that the example could be sometime that if you ask a person, especially men, if you talk to them and ask for their income or salary, don't you think you would not get a right kind of answer, because it's very personal? People don't want to talk about their salary. So better would be, instead of asking them that what is the actual salary you are earning, so what you need to do, you need to ask, you belong to upper income group, medium income group, or lower income group. So here you are not putting any figure or any value, that lower means 10,000 to 20, medium means 20 to 50, and upper means 50 and more than 50,000. So here you are not giving any value, but It is something because here the respondent is not able to understand how much is high more than the medium and how much is low less than the medium. So here you are not asking directly actually how much you earn every month or annually. But here it will somewhere help that okay, I have this income, but I feel I belong to medium. So it will give you more clear picture. It will give you more kind of understanding. So here you see it is basically describe a difference among categories of variables. So we have categories 1, 2, 3 or low, medium, high, plus allow the categories to be ranked. So here we are ranking them that upper, medium and low. Okay, but here again we have a difficulty. Actually in pure value we are pure numerical value we are not able to calculate them, because here 3 would be more than 2, but what is the gap in between, what is the difference between them, that would be a difficulty. So here not only a categories the variable, but also rank in a particular increasing or so it's a increasing, you know, from low medium up it's a increasing, from high medium low it's a decreasing. So order would be there. So that is the beauty of ordinal level measurement. For example, preferences may be ranked in terms of low, medium and high, or best to worst. However, the actual or relative values of the attributes or difference in the attribute values cannot be assessed or quantified. So the difference between medium and high or low or medium, actually it's you cannot calculate that difference. This is the difficulty over here. So now I give you 1 minute to think about what is the difference between ordinal and nominal level. Think about it. Let me see, where are you? If you have any question you can ask. हेलो. हाँ
सर आप कहाँ पे हैं?
बेटा मैं क्लास ले रहा हूँ, मैंने इसलिए कहा था 10:30 आ जाना.
सर वो मेरे को कह रहे थे ना यहाँ पे मनोज सर से मिलो, वो कोई सीरियल नंबर देंगे. सर मेरे को तो पता ही नहीं यहाँ पे कहाँ है मनोज सर.
हाँ मैंने इसलिए कहा था 10:30 आ जाना, 11 बजे तक मैं तुम्हारा काम करा देता. अब ऐसा है, अब थोड़ी देर रुको. ठीक है, मैं आता हूँ फिर कराता हूँ, क्लास खत्म करने दो मुझे.
ठीक है सर.
ठीक. So I hope things are clear to you. If you have any question in your mind related to the difference between nominal and ordinal, please do ask. Because if you are able to understand this, then in future, whenever you would be conducting a research for your MPhil, for PhD, or you would be going for some kind of survey, then you will be confident enough to collect information without any if and but, because and you would be very smart because you know that nominal data would not be of any use for you. It would be just for recognizing something, but it would be better if I have a choice to select to collect data in terms of ordinal or nominal. So you would be knowing that the purpose of nominal would be this and the purpose of ordinal would be this. So let me see your reflection. Where are you? So any questions? So Himani, you said what? Can you unmute your mic and tell me what was your question here? Okay, 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 okay. So now I think clear to you, Himani, the concept. Okay, okay, thank you. Hmm. frequency or percentage. So what I will do, I will give you what you call the statistical tool also against this information. That in nominal, what kind of statistical technique you can use. In ordinal, what kind of statistical technique you can use. So now if you understand them, now you know the limitation also of this nominal and ordinal. So these two are not of much use for you. This is just for demographic profile, that you know whether you are you belong to which category in terms of income. You belong to male or female, you belong to married, unmarried. And sometime when you feel that it would be not easy to ask a direct question to a person. For example, just think of age, right? It's a matter of privacy in the USA. You cannot ask for age or a date of birth, right? So in India, if you go and ask a woman or a girl that can you tell me your age? So it would not be a something which you should directly ask a male or female. So better would be you define a age maybe in terms of this group that you belong to, young group, right? Something like that. So it will help a person to give a right kind of answer. But on the other side, the limitation of this kind of data is you cannot use further analysis with this kind of data. So we always try to use this kind of ordinal nominal information just for demographic profile, which is not much of use for us, because actually we are here to capture a variable and a construct. But this demographic profile will support our research, right? As I mentioned, that if you want to find out the what you call if you want to define or compare the what you call quality of life of a female and quality of life of a male. So these information you should have, that how many female and how many male you have taken. So that's why this ordinal and nominal data would be of use, right everybody? So if you have any question, please ask, because this is basic but very important concept, important discussion we have today. So let us continue, and let me tell you what we are talking about. Okay, so this we have discussed, that preferences may be ranked in terms of low, medium and high, or best to worst. However, the actual or relative value of attributes, so actually you cannot say that low is this much less than the medium. You can't say like this, right? So in case of good, medium and bad, researchers cannot quantify how much is good more than medium and bad in terms of quantity. This is very important over here. So now we understand that there is a limitation. If you talk about nominal, there is a limitation with ordinal level of measurement also. But when you conduct a research, you would be collecting some data in the form of nominal and ordinal as well. The reason would be that you cannot ask each and everything in quantitative terms. That would be a next level interval or scale. So that nominal and ordinal is also an integral part of our research. We cannot get rid of this. Now, here you see in ordinal level measurement, an ordinal scale has the properties of identify and magnitude but lack equal unit size and absolute zero. So the difference between medium and low and the high and medium would be varying because you don't understand how much is the difference in between. That is one problem over here. And second, in between, you cannot have actual absolute zero, right? From low to high, in between medium. So is there any actual zero? Tell me. Or for example, sweet and bitterness. It between, do you think actual zero will occur? That at this point, the bitterness or sweetness would be zero, or sweetness would be zero, bitterness would be more. So that absolute zero is missing in ordinal, remember. So two more qualities of ordinal, that the magnitude would not be same, right? It would not be equal. Plus, for example, let us talk about highly satisfied and highly dissatisfied. A 5-point Likert scale. Okay. So on the one side you say 1 for what? Highly dissatisfied. 2 for what? Satisfied. 3 for what? No idea. 4 for what? Satisfied. And 5 for what? Highly satisfied. This kind of numbering we give. I hope you remember. This is what our ordinal level scale. But the problem over here is, do you see in between any zero? Right? So this is what, there is no absolute zero in between. Right? Now comes to interval. Interval is like ordinal, right? Interval is like ordinal. So here this is same like we described differences among variables, rank categories, you remember, measure distance between categories and has no true zero. What is the difference between this and the last one? Any idea? Anyone? So generally what we do, if someone asks you what is Likert scale, Likert scale is actually a ordinal but behave like an interval. It is more precise. Here what we did, in last one you remember, we were not sure about what is the difference between satisfied and dissatisfied if you give them number. But here it would be more clear and it would be between 2 points and you would be more sure because fraction value would be also there. Now let me give you one example. Suppose we have a class of 200 students in MCOM. Fine. And now we want to see the age of the students, those who are studying in MCOM. Now you see that somewhere age would be falling between 22, maximum 26, 27. So if I collect this information from all of you, then what will happen? All will fall between 20 to 27. Some would be between 25 to 26. Some would be between 24 to 27. Something like that. So all 200 students would be falling between 2 points. You see, measure the distance between any 2 points. So here our 2 points are from 20 to 27. And in between you will see 0 will not fall. But the distance between them would be equal. Why it would be equal? Because now you see age we can go up to what extent, up to what fraction we can go? We can go up to the day. That which day, which month, right? So you know your age, that I am now 25 years old, 6 months, 2 days. So up to that extent you can enlarge your scale and everything would fall under this. But remember, still the actual zero will not fall in between, right? In between, zero is not there. So that is beauty here. So this is a difference between interval and ordinal. Your liked scale is actually ordinal, but behave like, because you put what you put 1 2 3 4 5 for what? For highly dissatisfied to highly satisfied. But that if you keep it as ordinal, then the difference between 2 and 1 would not be equal. But if you make it interval, the distance between 1 and 2 would be equal, because if you divide, for example, height would be in inches also, right? So that in inches, that fraction you can put that in class MCOM, that all the student will fall under these two numbers, these 2 points. The point would be on the one side, let us see 4.5 inches, and here maximum 6 inches. So all 200 students will fall in between these two number, right? And see, remember, actual zero will not fall in between. Now what we did in interval, because features were same, but there was one difference, that here the difference between 2 and 1 is very much numerically clear to you. That would be in inches. Weight, if it is in weight, it would be a gram, kilogram or gram, right? If it is age, you know the age also, that okay, you belong to 6 months, 2 days, or these many years. So this is more precise if you compare it with ordinal. It look like same, no difference at all, but there is a minor difference. As far as zero is concerned, in both you will see a note 20 is there. Here generally in interval, people give an example of temperature, right? Because in temperature, do you think actual zero will occur, right? And if suppose temperature is zero, do you really feel temperature would be zero? Or for example, another example, light and dark. Okay, so suppose I switch off this light over here. Can you say it's completely zero of light? Or if you go in a dark room also, can you say that in dark also there is zero light? Can you say something like that? So things are overlapping. Actually, nothing becomes zero in this case. Whether this is example of temperature, because you will see in zero also, who define at this level temperature would be zero. We artificially define it. It's not an actual zero, right? Let me give you another example, because sometimes you people get confused that what I'm talking about, what zero is this? Very simple example. Now I hope with this example things would be clear to all of you. Just see wristwatch or wall clock. Just see that. At what point of time zero occur in that wall clock? Let me come back to you. Tell me everybody, at what point of time you see zero? Give me response in your chat box. Zero is not there, thank you. But there is a zero, Soumya Kumari. And what time that occurred? Tell me. Yes, thank you, Divya. So here, this is not an actual zero, right? This is not a actual 0. Thank you, Sarita. Thank you very Soumya. So is this a actual 0? No, it's not a actual 0, right? So it took me, I remember, 6 months to find out a right example, because with the example of temperature, with the example of light and dark, people get confused. So one day I was sitting, I was thinking about that which should be the right example. I hope this wall clock or wristwatch would be the right answer, where things are moving, but in between actual 0 will not fall in between, right? Thank you, Soumya and Sarika, thank you very much. So I hope now it's clear to all of you what's the difference between interval and ordinal. In ordinal, the distance will not remain same because you don't know what is the difference. But here in interval, you are sure, because here you are talking about, for example, height, you know the inches. It's a weight, you know the kilogram. Uh, if some other value, you know that value, right? So it's very clear over here. So I hope this is clear to all of you. Put yes in your chat box if it's clear to all of you. So your Likert scale is basically ordinal, but we use it as, because if you put highly satisfied up to highly dissatisfied, that can you make it sure that difference between satisfied and highly satisfied would be this. So it's a ordinal, but we assume it like a this what you call interval, because here we are assuming the difference between these two would be same. So this is one problem with the Likert scale. So if someone asks you what is Likert scale, you tell them basically it's a ordinal, but for the purpose of research we assume it like a interval. And now we, in an interval, what happens, the difference between 2 points remain equal. Okay, so I hope things are clear to all of you. Very precise difference among ordinal and internal interval. In both you will see that 0 is the critical issue or a critical point. Okay, so example of interval level measurement is IQ scale of intelligence, where IQ scale calculate values between two attributes carry equal distance. It has arbitrary origin point or no absolute 0 point. Right, everybody? So can we say that at this level, this person would be of 0 intelligence? This person is not having intelligence at all, right? If a person is of sound mind, and if you say that this person is of sound mind and the intelligence is 0, can we say like that? We cannot say that. We can say low or high IQ, but actual 0 will not fall when you talk about intelligence of a person if person is of sound mind. You know, in law you might have studied business law, person of sound mind. I don't know unsound mind, I'm not sure about that, but okay. Oh, so here is the example, like wall clock move between 12 o'clock to 12 o'clock without absolute 0 point, but at midnight we assume that it comes back to 0, and then you will see immediately after 12 it comes 1. Instead of going after 12 to 13, a 0 comes in between, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, something like that. And the beauty over here, when you talk about wall clock, the difference between this 2 hours or 1 hours would remain equal. Same 60 minutes, and same in each and every 60 minutes you will see 60 seconds. So the distance remain equal among all the hours of a wall clock, right? So distance is equal, and secondly, absolute zero will not fall in between. So now you got a 3 example. One is of light and dark. Second, temperature, because if it's temperature, suppose we assume it's a -40, -20, -10. Can you say that there is no temperature when it's a -20? There would be some. So we assume it's artificially we define that if temperature come up to this would be a zero, but it's not a actual zero, it's an arbitrary zero. So here time between 2 and 5 am, the time between 3 and 6 am, one cannot say however that 4 am is twice as late as 2 am, but 0 time is an arbitrary point in an interval scale. The criteria of identify magnitude and equal unit size are met. So if these things now come to next, I hope these three kind of scales are clear to all of you. Let us move ahead. In ratio, this is the top level of information or numerical terms. Here you have actual zero. Here you have actual zero. Describe that variable, attributes can be rank and order. So you have ranking and order also, right? The distance between them precisely measured, that also. So it has got all last three features, but one more feature has been added, that it has absolute zero. So for example, someone asks you what is your salary, or what is the profit of an organization. So sometime profit become loss. So when it's a loss, it would be minus. So in between zero will occur, absolute zero will occur, right? So income, profit. So there may be a situation you might have seen in your balance sheet or in a profit loss account that this time you had a loss. So it's a minus, or maybe a zero income. Zero income means no income at all. So which is the absolute zero. So whenever you collect information up to such extent, right, which is actually a numerical value. For example, someone asks you what is your age. So you say my age is 45 year, 6 month, 20 days. So precisely you divided age into numerical terms, that how many days, how many months, or so we calculate age up to days only, then months, then year. This is very common. I hope you understand that. We don't go for time, that how much time. We don't go for up to that extent. So generally it's in days and months and year. Income is up to paisa. Paisa means that suppose 80,999 rupees 25 paisa. So up to that extent, point decimal, when you go up to 2 points, up to that extent we calculate our income, even expenditure, right? So, or a profit also. So when you describe your data up to this level, this is actually a absolute zero. So sometime if you are calculating information about a person, income, age, or some other information, or generally what we do, we always try to capture data in ratio, but we have a limitation. You cannot put each and everything. For example, can you put motivation in terms of ratio? Can we measure motivation in terms of ratio data? It would be very difficult. It would be very difficult. So instead of going to measure motivation in terms of ratio, what we do, we calculate motivation in terms of what you called interval. right? Because there you are able to easily capture the data or information. It is the most powerful. See, this is top level. So always we try that we should have data, because if you have ratio data, you can convert into interval, ordinal or nominal. But if you have nominal, you cannot convert into ordinal or interval or ratio. This is the, so you can go down, but you cannot move up. This is the limitation. That is the beauty of ratio. Suppose you collected actual information, for example, age, right, or income. So you can convert them into a ordinal or interval easily, but it cannot be on the other way around. So this is the most powerful tool to capture the exact attribute or variable, and from analysis point of view, ratio data represent the actual amount of a variable. And the beauty of ratio is it has absolute 0 point. The absolute 0 point mean an organization is earning zero profit or revenue. Example of ratio measurement is exact age in terms of year, months and days of a customer with year, month and day, or exact salary in decimal number of an employee. Ratio data also have four properties of measurement. It also identify, you get magnitude, and the difference between two unit would be equal, and the fourth very important that it gonna have absolute 0. Ratio scale represent the actual amount of variables. So here you are capturing the actual value, but as I mentioned, social science, if you are talking about the construct or variables which represent a particular position or a phenomena, it would be very difficult for you to capture with the help of ratio. So generally we opt for interval kind of tools. So I hope here you see I have divided into, I'm representing it here in more precise manner. You can see nominal. So now it would be very clear. Just you see data and you will be able to predict whether this is a nominal, because it indicates a difference exists among categories 1, 2, 3. The example you remember. Ordinal indicate a difference, allow a rank, but here B is C, D, F, A, B, C, D, F rank, but you don't know how much is the difference. Right. Third, very important, that in between 2 point, everything will fall in between. So generally, if I calculate your height, you will see if I distribute your height in normal distribution, what would be the outcome? You will see it would be like a bell-shaped curve where most of the people will be falling very close to mean value, right? Most of the people, for example, mean value is 5.3. So 5.3 all will be falling very close to 5.3. There would be a few student height would be extreme, maybe 6.5 or maybe a 4, right? So this is what, here you feel that the information you have collected on an average is normal, because here it's not only age, not only income, that all these people they fall to a same group, right? So this is the beauty of a research, that you got some assumption, you have some proposition with you which indicate that okay, up to certain extent the information you have collected will have a very important characteristic, that they will have similar kind of characteristics. Very few things would be odd, most of the things would be even, right? As I mentioned, height of a students in MCOM class, you will see on an average they would be very close to each other. Very few would be of 6 or 5.9, very would be less of 4, all will fall in between 2 point. and in between no zero will fall, but the difference would be equal. And here, can you find out the exact age of all 200 students in a class? Don't you think it would be a very difficult task? Just see each and every one, put them in a one frame, and then measure their height. Whenever you try to measure, you will see minor kind of error would be there, right? You cannot find out the exact height of the student. If you are, then it's good enough, and that will fall under ratio. So there may be instances where it would be a very difficult for you to calculate the exact information. So what you do, you fall below, you come to interval and then calculate interval. If you are not able to calculate with the interval, then you fall further, you go for ordinal. Or if you are not able to calculate with ordinal, you fall back down and you calculate with the nominal. So who is on the top? Ratio. If you got a guts, if you feel that you're smart enough, then always go for ratio. And that, but here, I don't know, a person who is there will be giving you right information or not. But sometime you are in a position. I remember I told you I was attending one course 2 months back, and it's a 6 month course. So because you are a student, so they say that you need to give your blood sample. So I went there and I had given a blood sample, and they checked my blood sample. So what was that? That was a ratio data. Exactly they had given me that they tell you that okay, these kind of contents you have in your blood. So red cell, cholesterol, sugar, everything came precisely. That was what ratio. And what they will do after 6 months again, they will come back and will take my blood, and then they will check the impact of that training program on human being, right? So this is what, there may be a situation that you have owing some position that you can influence a person and then can collect data, especially in case of doctor and patient. It happens, right? And doctor, they say that you need to give consent. So easily patient, they give consent and they collect information, maybe blood sample, maybe other sample, like for example blood pressure, sugar level, and other description of a person or a patient. Doctor will have some privilege to collect, right? But as a social scientist, it would be very difficult for a social scientist because they are not in a position like a doctor would be. So better would be you go for an interval. If you're not going for interval, go for ordinal and collect data. And here, as I said, that I will give you some information that if you have nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio, then what kind of what do you call advanced statistical tools and techniques you can use. So you can see over here, if you have nominal, as I said, frequency, then go for mode, and you have very special tool chi-square test that you can use over here, right? Similarly, like ordinal, if you have, you can go for median, semi-interquartile, and rank order correlation. If you have internal interval kind of data, then you can go for arithmetic mean. You know the mean, median, mode, right? So you can go arithmetic mean, standard deviation, you can go for t-test and f. And finally, you have ratio, where you can use all possible, I believe, all possible kind of tools and advanced techniques, right? Arithmetic, geometric, standard deviation, variation, coefficient of variation, t and f test. So let us move further. Generally, now we have reached up to a point that we have designed questionnaire. We tested our questionnaire with the help of reliability and validity. And next we discuss that in what form you will be collecting data, whether that would be nominal, ordinal, interval, or scale. Now next very important thing, how many respondents, how many response you would be needed so that you can use right kind of techniques. This is very important here, because whenever you ask anyone that how many response I should collect so that my research would be having a concept of scientific way of conducting a research rule. So that is possible with the help of sample size justification. There are different methods. There are different methods for justifying sample size. But here, if I say something, then if you say that Pushpender sir has told us there should be a sample size, that is not a right kind of justification. What you need to do, you need to cite someone who has given some references, maybe in some book, maybe in some research article, that this kind of justification would be sufficient. These many data would be sufficient to conduct a research. So here I am going to give you a justification from a book. So you can keep this information till the time you conduct your higher research, maybe in terms of PhD or MPhil, or you go for postdoc. So you will have a right kind of answer to explain, to justify why you have selected these many number response, or these many respondents response, why not more than that or less than that. So how large would be that enough to do a good research that we're going to talk today. So here you can see this is difficult to answer, as McCallum, Bidaman, Zhang and Hong has mentioned in their research. Here one very straightforward answer you will get, that find out how many item or question you have in your questionnaire and multiply with minimum 10 or 20 times, and then you will have your total response size. That will decide your 10 total response size. But here for a 20 item or 20 question factor analysis, 100 subject would be preferably be too few. So if you have 20, if you multiply 20 items you have, so 10 times would be 200, right? So 200, do you think sufficient, or 100 is sufficient? But for a 90 item factor analysis, 40 might be adequate. So see, here are a bit contradictory statement over here. What, how large is the large enough? How many response we should collect? What should be the sample size? So for a 20 items questionnaire or 20 item questions, 100 would be less. But for 19 questions in a questionnaire, 400 would be adequate. What is the reason behind that? Let me give you here. Tilse and Tilse in 1987 suggested a ratio of about 5 to 10 subject per item up to about 300 subject, right? So you may have maybe small or large number of item or questions. So here he justified that 300 sample sizes is the right kind of number. So they suggested that when the sample is large, so that upper, going for, suppose you have a 90 item, 90 questions, if you multiply by 200 it will be 1800. So better would be, don't go for 1000, don't go for 500, 2000, 300 is the, so you can cite Tilse and Tilse this statement that 300 response or sample size is justified. Now Comrie 1973, so you have different version. So now after that first, now we have second justification. So sometime it may suit you also, that you feel that you don't get good, you are not getting that normal distribution, then you can go for 500. And here you see he justify a sample of 100 as poor, 200 as fair, so 300, again come back to 300 as good. But if you are not happy with 300, you can go up to 500, very good. If you want to make your study excellent, it should be 1000. Never ever try to go for more than 1000 because it would be a costly affair in terms of money and time. So Comrie stated that a sample size of 200 is sufficient, adequate in most cases of ordinal factorial analysis that involve not more than 40 items. So here this is what, it's not me who's telling you something, but you have reference, you can cite this information. If you are interested, I have one book also that I can share with you, but I don't know how many of you would be interested to understand all this, whatever we are discussing. We discuss factor analysis, then this sample justification. This I already have taken, this have taken from different books, and you can cite these books. You can cite these books, that in this book, this kind of references were there, that someone said 300, that 300, 500,000, that or maybe 200 with 40 items. So that you now have a justification. Now, if you have any question, you can ask. In the next class, we will talk about, so we discuss sampling size, sample size. Now we'll discuss sampling technique. It would be a bit rigorous, but bear with me. But I will explain each and everything in detail. Maybe in next two classes, we will talk about sampling techniques. So now, before I sign off, let me see if you have any query in your mind, or things are clear to you. We discussed very important basic things today. Different data. With the help of these data, you can collect information, and justification of sample size. And next we will discuss how to collect data, how to select respondent, how to select this sample. Randomly you will select, stratified, cluster you want to select, on what basis you will select, because it cannot be like that you feel you have friends, you have classmates, you have relatives, you go and approach them and collect data. It's not a right way, right? So what is the right way? What is the systematic way, scientific way of collecting information? That we will discuss in the next class. So now, if you have any query, you can ask.